session can go ahead and get started.
Sherry, are you pulling up the presentation or
No,
or
Elizabeth
is
was
Elizabeth
still-
doing that? Okay.
Mhm.
Working on it. Okay. Why, oh why does it not want to open?
Stand
this is
by for
inter-
technical adjustments.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It doesn't seem to want to open. I will, wait a minute. Are you seeing something?
Yes.
Is it big enough? Because I can't see what you see.
So we're seeing the who, what, when, where, why making an impact, like startup slide.
Okay. I can't see it.
You're good.
You
You're
can't.
good to go.
There we go.
I thought I
Now
heard
see it.
somebody say they could not see it.
Now
It's
I
up.
see it. It was coming in slow. Got
You
it.
can see it.
Okay.
Great. I'll just step in here quickly. Welcome everybody back from the break. My name is Kirsten Vroman, Program Administrator out of the Richmond office, and I will be the monitor for this next session, which will be discussing electronic files and paper files, documenting your why. And I have the pleasure of introducing Elizabeth Boringer and Catherine Beek. They will be your co-presenters for this session. I believe that we're going to kick off with Elizabeth, and what we would like is if you have questions as she's moving through her part of the presentation, please put them in the chat. We'll pause at the end of her part and answer any questions you might have, and then we'll move on with Catherine and do the same thing with questions at the end of hers. All right, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Great. Thank you. So we all just heard the TED Talk, and one of the things that I really walked away with is that you need to know your why. And so why do we have to have files? And there are three main reasons why you have to have files. There are three main reasons why you have to have files. Okay. I don't know why it doesn't want to proceed. Ha-ha! Bingo! So the first reason is that you need to be able to show that your project's national objective was met. And for most of our CDBG projects, that would be either low and moderate income benefits, or it would be slum and blight removal. You also needed to be able to document that your benefits were achieved. So if your project was for, let's say, 5 housing rehabs and then new infrastructure to 20 households, you need to be able to prove that you provided 5 housing rehab benefits and 20 public infrastructure to the households. And you use your files to document that. And finally, you use your files to show that you have complied with the program design, the HUD rules and regulations, and all the manual. So that's the why. That's why we're doing it. Okay, so when do you have to report out the information that you've collected? So there's 3 primary times that you do that. Okay, the first time is your monthly progress reports that you will work with your program administrator to determine what that's going to look like and by when you need to upload it into camps. So you also have to do annual activity reports. Those are the reports that you do at the end of summer, the beginning of fall. And we work with Dr. Melissa Mason on those. She's our data analyst, and she has to do all the reporting to HUD. And then you have to do a report out when we close out the project. And this is really the time you get to tell your story and show us all that you have accomplished. And then finally, there might be on-demand reports. There might be a time when the governor's office might ask us, can you tell us blah, blah, blah? Or HUD says, can you explain to us blah, blah, blah? And we'll have to work with you to get information so we can appropriately respond to those requests for information about your project and how it's proceeding. Okay. This did not happen during the run-through. Okay. So how do you report out? You have to upload everything into CAMS, whether it's your monthly progress report or the annual activity reports, closeout reports. They all have to be submitted into CAMS. It needs to be submitted by the deadline provided. When we give you a deadline, there's a reason why we pick that deadline. It's so that we can in turn meet our deadline. So especially for the annual reports, when we're reporting things to HUD, it's real important that you make that deadline. And if you cannot make that deadline, to contact your program administrator, explain what the problem is, and we'll see what we can do to accommodate you.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
Amanda Healy has asked if there's any way to make that larger.
Okay, give me a second.
If we're supposed to be able to capture what's on the piece from CAMS, I know I can't see it, but if you're just
The
that's
CAMS
up
is
there
just an
for-
illustration of what a typical reports and documents tab looks like in CAMS. And the
Okay.
reports and document tab is where you would upload everything except your annual audit. The annual audit goes in a different place. And I would see if I could make it larger. I'm just afraid I will lose everyone, but give me a second.
Sherry
me-
said that you're on full screen, so she believes you can't go any larger.
Okay, okay, good to know. Thank you, Sherry. And finally, when you report out, you need to make sure that you give us complete information. There's a reason why all those little boxes are there. That's because we need to have that information to report it. If it's an annual report, you know, you have both a narrative section where you say, okay, this is what we've done in the past 12 months. Make sure you fill that in completely, in addition to filling in all the other little boxes where you're getting information about numbers, etc. If your information isn't complete, somebody will get back to you and ask you to fill it in for us. Okay. So what type of files are we talking about? Most people are still using hard copies, which is perfectly fine. If you're a visual person like me, that works really great. But I'm beginning to see that more and more people are using electronic files. And we're going to go into a little bit more detail later on in the presentation about some tips about how you make sure if you're going to use electronic files, they're set up in a way that, especially for the compliance reviews, we can easily find everything. And finally, the last type are those things that not only do you have to have either a hard copy and electronic copy, but you also have to have a copy in CAMS. So what do you file? As Stuart said yesterday, beginning with the end in mind is so important in so many different things, and it certainly is true with your filing system. You need to know what you have to file, and if you don't know that, there are definitely going to be problems down the road when you have a compliance review or you have to report out at an annual activity report or a closeout report. All the programs should be giving you guidance on what you should be reporting out on. If you're not sure where to find that, contact your program administrator and they'll help you locate it. So here are these are the common files that regardless of your project type, you're going to have these files. So they run the gamut from starting with the application and your contracts to project administration, financial administration, and then all the way to project closeout. So again, these are files that you're going to have to do regardless as to your project type. And then you're going to have to do files that are specific to your project type. And the 5 most common categories are housing rehab or maybe production, public infrastructure, economic development, which would include your downtown revitalization, and then finally community service facility. And this would include things like medical clinics, dental clinics, adult daycare. And one of the tips I have for the filing system, if you're using hard files, is we used to have a program administrator, John told me and his grantees that one of the easiest ways to make sure you get everything into the right file is that guidance you get, cut it up. And if you have housing rehab, cut up the information that you get and paste that or tape it onto the file. So when you have the file in front of you, you can just go down the cover of it and you can see everything that should be in there. And that makes it really easy peasy. Electronic tips. So again, what are some of the best things to keep in mind when you're doing electronic trips? Set it up the way you would do project files. So you would have one folder for the application, a folder for the contracts, a folder for project management, a folder for financial management. So everything is set up in the same way as if you're doing electronic files. When you have electronic files, one of the things we heard yesterday, and we want to repeat that, is make sure there's consistency in naming your files. And again, we would appreciate it if you would start off with a contract number, followed by the grantee's name, followed by a description of what it is. Is it a contract for your ASOE? Is it a contract extension? Whatever the thing is, name it that third. It's really important that you have backups. I was talking with a coworker and they mentioned that the grant manager had done everything electronically, had it on a memory stick, and they handed it to the program administrator and said, now don't lose this. This is the only copy we have, which I'm sure just sort of kind of sent chills down the program administrator's back because it's so easy to lose a memory stick. I'm sure we all have at one time or another misplaced the memory stick and went kind of crazy until we found it. So make sure you have backups, especially if you have set up your files so that more than one person can put things into the files. You definitely want to make sure that somewhere you have a backup. And then don't forget that even though you're doing things electronically, there are some documents that we have to have an original signature. The thing that pops to my mind always is the certified payroll reports that you have to have for Davis-Bacon. DOL requires an original signature to be on the back side where they attest to all the things they have done. So do make sure that you have identified which documents require an original signature and make sure that you have the hard copy so it doesn't become an issue when there's a compliance review. Okay, so what do you have to upload into CAMS? Drafts. When you're doing the pre-contract activities, your program administrator might request that you either send the drafts by email and that way they can easily review it, comment. I know I like putting my comments in electronically, but they may also ask you once document, say, a project management plan, is all done except for the signatures, she might or he might ask you to upload that into CAMS. So when we're doing the contract routing, if anybody who reviews a contract after us can see the document and they know that it has been started and that we're just waiting until after the our contract is executed, that your contract will be executed or your program design will be adopted. And then anything that's adopted or signed, again, program designs, project management plans, contract extensions, all those things have to be uploaded into CAMS. All your reports have to be updated. I mentioned before that that would be your monthly, your annual, and your closeout reports. And then any correspondence that you send to us needs to be uploaded into CAMS, whether that's a request for a budget revision or contract extension, although again, you know, we don't like seeing those. They all have to be uploaded into CAMS. So what is the filing gold standard? Your files need to be organized, whether it's paper or electronic, preferably in a way similar to our suggested filing system. But if you don't use that, that's fine. You just need to make sure that we can still find everything. It has to be accurate. It doesn't do anybody any good if the information you have in there is outdated or just not there. And it has to be complete. And again, going back to the illustration of the annual activity reports, everything has to be filled in. There's a reason why we ask for the information. Usually it's because HUD wants that information, so we need to have it. So please make sure everything is complete.
Okay, good
So,
morning. Thank you, Elizabeth. It's my turn. Sorry, I jumped the gun a little bit. Sorry about that. Good
That's
morning,
okay.
everybody. Now we'd like to get your feedback on what are some things that you're doing that works to document your why. So if you could put that in the chat, we'd appreciate that. I'll give you a quick minute here to, if you guys want to do that. Or if anybody has any questions from the previous slides. If not, we'll hold them for the end. Okay, anything in the slide, in the chats there, Kristen?
I'm not
No?
seeing anything yet.
Okay, well, we can wait till the end. All right, so next slide, please. Okay, so what we're going to do now, the next several slides, will be reviewing some of the key forms that you guys are required to document your why. One of them is the employee interview form. That's with the, if you're doing the payroll evaluation, labor standards, excuse me. This is the employee form. I know you can't see everything, but I will point out a few key areas that we would like for you to highlight and make sure that you are complete. One is verifying that the employee, when they tell you they have a certain wage, that when you go back to your office, you verify with the certified payroll that they are in fact making what they said they were making. In addition, also make sure that you, when you do your observation, that you write down and document what equipment they're using, what tools, you know, really get a clear picture of what that employee is doing, and then verify that again from your certified payroll on what the contractor says their occupation is. Another thing we'd also like for you to do is make sure at the bottom you sign it and date it. And I think that's the key areas we wanted for you to address. So that's, again, the employee interview form. Oh, another critical point is when you're conducting these interviews, one, make sure you pass on to the employee that it is confidential, and also that these should be conducted on during work time, not on a break. So they're allowed to get their lunch breaks and whatnot. You don't do your interview during their break. Okay, so next slide, please. And then we're also going to now look at the household income form in a couple of key areas. Again, making sure you have the correct name and address. of the home that you're in, the household rather, that you're interviewing and discussing. List all the family members, their assets, current cash value of their assets, and then actual income. Okay, a job, they might have a 401k or something, they got an inheritance. Make sure you put that down. And again, verify your your totals. At the bottom where it says the section is a break, it says anticipated annual income. Again, list your family members and then the annual income, wages, salaries, benefits, not like a monthly salary. So you want to make sure you get your annual wages and salary. You add those all up. You again want to make sure in line 7 there, you want to put their annual income for the household. And another key area we found out by the line, excuse me, gosh, the county, you want to put the county, the fiscal year, and the total household income, and also what is the 80% AMI limit for that household. So don't just, you want to look at your chart, your income guideline chart, and then put that as what is the total of the 80% LMI supposed to be for a household of 3 or 4 or 5, 6, whatever it is. So that way you can verify, and it'll be on your chart, on your form, that you did in fact review what was needed. Okay. All right. So we can go to the next slide. We're going to talk now
can
about.
I jump in? Can I jump in for a
Sure.
minute, Kathy? I also want to say that when you fill out this form and you identify the 80% AMI, to be sure to attach to this form the chart that you use to determine what the AMI is.
All right. Thank you. Okay, next slide. All right, so now we're going to go into the Section 3 report form. And this is a part of the final evaluation report that you'll be submitting as part of your final closeout for the project. You want to put in your total labor hours for a project. Then the next box, Section 3, target worker hours. Those are hours for those individuals, employees that are targeted for Section 3, which is low income, living within a certain range or an area of the property. And yeah, so those are the main. And then Section 3 workers are any employees that are low income within the project area, and they can be employed with the contractor up to the 5 years prior. Okay, and then you put their total hours, you put the total job hours, you put the individual Section 3 target worker employee worker hours, Section 3, and then the calculated percentage. Now over on the final column where it says safe harbor benchmark, that the safe harbor benchmark is 25%. You want to try to achieve it to be in the safe harbor area and this is new to the new Section 3 laws. So, and that's 25%. So you want to see in that column there, you would mark, yes, they did, or no, they did not. Okay. All right. So we want to go to the next slide, please. All right. Now we're going to talk a little bit about housing benefits. And again, keep in mind, you want to be able to document these results. So, some could be homes that were substantially reconstructed, owner-occupied housing rehabs, investor-owned housing rehabs, and the number of households receiving first-time indoor plumbing. And there might be others, but these are just the main benefits. So again, in your files, in CAMs, somebody said pictures, make sure you have, documentation that you can verify your why. You're verifying your why in these results here. Okay, or in these documenting these benefits. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, public infrastructure benefits. You're going to document your number of homes receiving new septic systems, new wastewater connections, and new homes connected to public water system. Again, documenting the work was done through documents, contracts with the contractor, verified that those homes were received a new septic system, pictures. I have a project on the Eastern Shore. We went out into the field several of us, and we actually took pictures of the new septic systems being installed. So that way the grantee, well, they had their own pictures, but we can document, yes, this was achieved. Again, all documenting your why. Okay, next, please. All right, so another benefit area is community service facilities. Could be a new daycare facility, new multi-purpose facilities like a community center or a daycare facility. Also could be adult daycare facility. There's some areas that might be doing those kind of activities. New health clinics, new hospitals. That's very rare. I think I heard yesterday somebody is doing got a grant for a new dental clinic. So those are some things that you want, again, all documenting your why. All right, please, next. Yes.
Catherine, real quick, can I just interject that Kathy Boatwright had
Sure.
pointed out that PSA billing lists are often requested to document the benefit as well. And but Amanda echoed, I'm sorry, PSA billing
what?
lists, lists are often requested to document the benefit.
And for those of you who are new, PSA is Public Service Authority.
Oh, got it. Okay, thank you. I was like, what? What's PSA? Gosh, Deanna, I guess I'll have to add more to my alphabet soup, right? It's a little
And
private joke.
Amanda also reiterated that pictures are an awesome way to tell the story, especially when you have before and after pictures. And of course, you're getting the owner's permission.
Right, exactly. Right. Okay, so next, please. Economic development benefits could be the number of jobs are created, new businesses established or expanded. They could be a new business, or they are existing business and they're expanding. Maybe they're getting, you know, instead of a in-home job or business, they have a brick and mortar, or they're at a incubator and they've got a new location. Those kind of things. Also, again, existing businesses being assisted. All right, and in addition, next slide, please. In addition, now in the economic development, under that is the business district revitalization benefits. One key outcome is developing an economic restructuring plan, number of facade improvements within the locality, signage, streetscapes, markets, farmers markets. What are some others? Let's see, I forget. Oh yeah, murals is another thing. Joanne pointed out that yesterday. Murals are another benefit, you know, enhancing the vibrancy of the community by adding a mural. Just, you know, bringing a little bit of community pride to your to the area, to the town or the city. All right, next, please. All right, now this is a very fun tracking chart. This is just one of several benefit tracking spreadsheets that we have. You don't have to use this exact format, but you want to be able to capture all the information. So if you'll see, this is for a housing rehab benefit tracking. You want to list on the first A, B, C, D, E, the particulars, the property address, owner's name. If there's a tenant, put the tenant's name, a phone number. Then you want to look at the type of ownership. In this case, we've got these examples. They're both owners. What type of work is going to be performed? Is it a rehab? Is it a substantial? We have production, demolition. So you want to write exactly what that is. And then as you go down to the going towards the right, number of units, in this case, is one each. You want to, let's see, when was the lead hazard thing? If the house was constructed before 1978, you want to document that. So you know if there's an opportunity to maybe get some funds under the lead hazard reduction program. All right, and moving along into the yellow section, there is LMI status. Ensuring that, you know, the individuals, the household is an low, moderate income household and individual. Then you also want to, very important, because a lot of times we don't get this information, but it's very critical, the demographics. Okay, you want to make sure that you document their ethnicity and their what else? Let's see, if they're Native American, Caucasian, black, white. You want to document all that. Then also the household data, total number of persons in that household. All right, and if yeah, and if they're elderly, you know, so we have a clear picture. You have a clear picture, we have a clear picture. When we send it to HUD, they have a clear picture in data what was achieved by your program. And there's other benefit trackings. We have Elizabeth, help me out. Don't we have shoot, I can't remember the wastewater.
Yeah, we have tracking samples for all the project types.
Right.
So if you're doing acquisition and relocation, we have samples. Just talk to your program administrator.
Yep.
And if need be, they can reach out to me and I can locate it for them. But we have one for each project type.
Okay, next, please. Okay,
back to me.
So we'll turn it back over to Elizabeth.
Okay, so hopefully my allergies will let me speak a little better than I did the first go round. Record retention. So you have all these files and they may be taking up a whole filing cabinet and you're really wishing you could get rid of them. Unfortunately, you can't right away. You have done all the CDBG funded activities, all the local funded activities. It's been conditionally closed out. But you can't close it out until you've gotten the final audit and closeout letter. That means we've received all the audits that we need. Sometimes this can be 2 years after we've done the conditional closeout. And then from that letter, it will tell you the date from which you can start tracking the number of years. It's 10 years that we have to keep these. And then after the 10 years, you can dispose of them. And final words, you heard Stuart say this yesterday. We want to reiterate it. If it isn't documented, as far as we're concerned, as far as HUD is concerned, it did not happen. And where I see frequently things not being documented is with fair housing activities. You did a fair housing activity, but you put nothing in the file that shows us it actually happened. And if that's the case, we'll make you do another fair housing because we have to have the documentation. So again, that's one of the reasons why it's so important that you know up front everything that you're supposed to document. Questions? Does anybody have any questions? For Kirsten, I think you're muted.
Yep, I can read this for you. Ellen is asking for record retention for the IPR, for instance. If the lien is for 5 years, do we have to hold on to it for 10 years after it's paid off / matured?
My understanding is that you have to keep all the documentation for 5 years after the end of the program year. Joanne, if I'm wrong, would you please let me know?
I think the safe harbor for this would be 10 years for everything, so that people don't have to remember, oh, is this 5 or 10 or 3 or 8 or 7 or 9? Just let's make it 10 years, keep it for 10 years, store it somewhere out of sight, making sure you can get to it if need be.
Right. If you're involved in a litigation, I was at an agency years ago and we were being sued. And we ended up that we had files back 15, 10, 20 years or prior. So if you're in a litigation, then you have to keep them until that whole case is run its course through the system.
Right.
Okay.
And sometimes your audit may cause a problem and you have to fix something. And until that audit is fixed and it's submitted, we can't close out the setup. So make sure that if you have any audit problems, that you're talking to your program administrator so they know there's going to be a delay in submitting that audit. And if necessary, we'll request that you get a waiver. So for other projects, you still can get remittance requests processed. Kirsten, are there more?
Yes, well, we have a comment from Stuart Burrell. He said, as someone who was deeply involved in archiving in a past career, the standard is to have at least 3 copies of something and at least 1 copy in a different location in case there's a fire, flood, etc. So having your files on your local computer, in the cloud or offsite server, and on an external drive is a good practice. Remember, devices fail, paper is not permanent, etc.
Yeah, I had a case where a grantee lost all their back issues of their audits. They only kept 1 hard copy. And unfortunately, the building it was stored in received extensive damage because of a bomb, and they lost all their audits. And I must say it made for the most interesting compliance review. But yeah, Stuart is absolutely right. Make sure you keep copies. A lot of grantees are posting their audits, for example, on their website, and that's a great way to back up at least your audit.
Awesome. And also Sherry said that the down payment is an exception as some deeds are 15 years on.
Oh, good to know. Thank you, Sherry.
Yes. This doesn't need to be complicated to keep an offsite. It can be as simple as taking it home and putting it in your little fireproof box at home.
Yeah.
And those fireproof boxes, by the way, are often not as fireproof as you think, as I've seen some tests on them. Throw one in a campfire for a half hour and see what happens.
No, that's
was the
okay.
test
No.
I saw. Archiving doesn't have to be complicated, but it has to be a part of your consistent pattern. We've also
Right.
seen buildings burn down and flood. Cleveland, I believe it was, flooded from the Clinch River. St. Charles PSA burned down. It happens.
Yeah.
But will that satisfy an outside auditor to keep you from having to repay things?
Yeah. And I think Stuart's comment that, keeping a backup at a different location or on the cloud is really a good one. Having another location. So like if you get flooded, hopefully the second location won't be flooded.
I would also point out, you mentioned litigation. I knew of a case years ago where old board meeting minutes from 30 years before
Yeah.
settled some litigation over an endowment, over who owned an endowment. So we're talking probably 7-figure multi-million-dollar endowment. And the question became who owned it when one organization was managing it for another organization. Their detailed board minutes from 30 years before helped them win the case. Again, it's evidence that archiving is critical.
Yep.
I think that's it.
Any other comments?
I'm not seeing
Questions?
any other questions. Anybody else have anything?
Does CAM
I'm
serve
sorry,
as
there
an
is something.
archive? Oh, well, no. When we archive our projects, we do not keep everything that's up on CAMS. So we will keep everything that's in reports and documents. But if you need something that pertains to your budgets or your remittance requests, we won't have that information once we archive it. And there's a chance that the archive could be as long as 10 years, but I wouldn't count on it. Does Joanne or Kathy or Amanda want to address this more? I mean, you can certainly, if it's a reports and documents, yeah, we probably could get it, but I couldn't guarantee you that it will
I
be
think
there.
some of our information that is archived in CAMS, some of it does end up going to the Library of Virginia, but it really depends on what it is. I wouldn't, if I were a locality or an organization, wouldn't count on it permanently for my records. It's more for DHCD records. So just maybe something to think about. Perhaps for the audits, it might serve as an archive, but I wouldn't count on it.
But good question. Good question.
Yeah, good question.
I would add that your organization or your locality may have its own archive policy, and so you would need to be in compliance with that as well. And I'd also like to ask you a question, and that is, would it be helpful to have some training on archiving projects? I mean, that's getting kind of down in the weeds, but it is important. It's important for us. It's important for you. And we actually have in-house someone who has extensive knowledge of archiving, as well as Stuart having experience with it. And we could probably make that happen.
We're getting a couple of yeses in the chat for sure.
Okay.
Ellen Smith with SIRCAP. Emily is saying yes.
Okie doke. We'll put it on the list.
Marion Payne also. Yep. Any other questions for Catherine or Elizabeth or both?
Or neither?
Or all right. Well, if there are no questions, this would lead us into our next break. So I have 10:40 on my timestamp, so that would bring us back at 10:45 for the next session. Thanks, everyone.